This is Johnny Perryman, and I have another story for you. Then after the story, I'm going to show some African opals and see if they show up on the screen. But in this story, there was this woman that was in heaven, and she had been on earth before, but she was with the Great Spirit because she had passed away. But when she was on earth, she didn't become enlightened. And so she knew she'd have to go back to earth again. And so she was talking to the Great Spirit, and she says, when I go back to earth this time, I want to become completely enlightened so I don't have to go back again. And the Great Spirit says, well, you know that you have a long way to go to become enlightened. And to become enlightened is not easy. You have to go through some rough times. And you're going to have to go through all of these rough times during one lifetime. And the person says, well, I don't care. I want to go back to earth and become enlightened this time. Now, she needed some people to help her reach her enlightenment. And there were other angels around her. And they volunteered to help her reach her enlightenment. They were all sad because they knew how bad and how ugly they had to treat her when she was on earth in order for her to become completely enlightened. There were tears in their eyes, but they loved her enough to do that for her. And so she went back to the earth, and when she was born in one of those countries where they didn't have a lot of joy over a female child. They all wanted male childs as male children. And so when she was pulled out, they took one look at her and said, "Ah, damn, another girl," and they threw the baby up against the wall. And that was the beginning of her life. And all of her life was very difficult because it had to be difficult in order to become enlightened. And then, as she went through all of this very difficult life, where all of those people that volunteered was down there helping her and treating her so bad, she became enlightened before she went back up to the Great Spirit and to heaven. And when she went back up there, all the angels that had been down there helping her become enlightened, they were cheering and clapping for her, and they had tears in their eyes because of the way they had to treat her. Now, in other words, in order to become enlightened, you have to go through some things. I'm going to give you one example of myself. I almost starved to death 2 times when I was a child. And both times I wound up going to Harborview Medical Center. Otherwise, I would have died. And I was in school when I was 10 years old one time, and I was in the hallway, and everybody else was outside playing or something. There was nobody else in the hallway. And it had been so long since I'd eaten anything, I started crying. And then this one white lady teacher came over there, and she was a beautiful lady. I just loved the way she looked, and she seemed so nice. And she wanted to know why I was crying. I was ashamed of being poor. But I told her how many days it had been since I'd eaten anything. And she digested that information and she walked away. She never did anything. I realized at 10 years old that if I was going to eat, I had to feed myself. And so I asked myself the question, so how do I feed myself? Then I realized that all those kids came to school with lunch money. And I had to get some of that lunch money. And so how do I get their lunch money? And I decided on gambling. I was pretty good at cards even at 10 years old. And so I decided on gambling. So I started gambling with the kids, and because I didn't have any money to lose, I had to cheat. And I was winning their money. And I got so good at gambling that eventually I reached a point where I didn't have to cheat anymore. And I even carried that into my adult. I mean, I did regular jobs, but at one time when I was 21, 22 years old, I was going up and down the East Coast, New York, uh, to Washington, D.C., Staten Island, Baltimore, Maryland, uh, Virginia, Yorktown, Virginia, Newport News, Virginia, uh, to Jacksonville, Florida, Miami Beach, Florida, Galveston, Texas, New Orleans, just gambling. I gambled Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night. I saved up a lot of money. I later on went to college on that money a few years later. But the point is, I was 10 years old when I learned an important lesson. Any problem that you run into, instead of blaming whoever is responsible for it, if you accept accountability, then your mind works in a different way. And when your mind works in a different way, you can resolve that problem. But everything that you learn, if you go through the hardest times, when you get to the other side of that hard time, you're going to learn something. And if you go through enough bullshit, you'll reach a point where you're enlightened. Now let me show you a few of these opals. Let me see if they even show up on the... Well, I can't see them too well on that there. Let me try this one. You can see a little bit of the fire in it. I mean, in the sunlight, these things are just beautiful. Wow. You can see some of the green and red in that one. These are unpolished opals. I have polished ones. Let me see if they show up any better. These are smaller ones that have been machined. Yeah, you can hardly even see. Nope, you gotta see them in the sunlight. But anyway, my name is Johnie Perryman, and this has been another edition of the Family Trust. And I just want you to have a wonderful, beautiful day, and know that I love every last one of you. And I would like to announce that some of my videos are going over to Africa now. There's one village where the head person listens to my videos, and then they go talk to the people over there and share that knowledge with them.